This is the grant entry training video for the National FFA Living to Serve data collection and reporting system. You can access the grant details or the grant entry form from the main navigation by clicking on the grant details form. As with all forms within the system, you navigate between records using the arrows adjacent to the field name. You'll see here Idaho. If you then move down, they only have one chapter currently within the system that is receiving grants, but Illinois, Indiana, sorry, has multiple chapters that have been entered and are receiving grants. What we're going to do today is add 2 new grants for 2012 to show what the process is, and then we'll be able to step through pretty quickly on all of those. So, if you're working with a chapter that has received a grant in the past, you're going to navigate to the state and chapter that has received that grant. Historical information for them will be listed. You can see this chapter has only received a grant in 2010. They did not receive a grant in 2011, but we are going to add one for 2012. So to add a new grant, you click the star, the arrow star. It'll give you a blank record, and you want to put in the year of the grant. Grants are entered by fiscal years, so if a school is receiving a grant for the 2011-2012 school year, you're going to want to enter that grant year as 2012. You can then enter the amount of the grant. They're getting $2,500 this year. The start date of the grant, the end date of the grant, and the community served by the grant. Okay, you can click on each cell, or the tab key, as I just utilized, will take you from cell to cell. Now, for each grant, you must enter at least one project. So it'll start off blank, but to enter a new project name, the first one, you just start typing in there. So their first project is roadside cleanup. That is an environmental issue. These standard issues allow for standardized reporting of the benefits, or the beneficiaries and the contacts for the project by issue. If the issue addressed by this specific project is not identified in the list, then select Other and fill in an expanded project issue, or an other description for that project. Okay, but this one is clearly environmental. Number is very important, as it allows for the Excel file to position this project in the right place for data entry. The system, or the Excel file, will accept up to 3 different projects for each grant, and up to 5 impact measures for each project. Okay, so they must be numbered sequentially. So this is the first project, so we're going to give it a number 1. Okay, if you want to put in a longer description, a paragraph description of what this roadside cleanup project is, you're welcome to put that here in this field. These natural, civic, human, economic, and so forth were used historically. You're welcome to still use those designations if you would like. Everything in the system, though, is driven by this standard issue designation. Status. You're not going to complete status now. You're going to leave that as 0. Status refers to the completion status of the project. So in the Excel file completion that the chapters will do, they'll identify whether their project is completed or in progress, or it is unable to be completed, and this field will change during the import process with the Excel files. Impact measures. These are quantitative impact measures for the chapter. Similarly, if the impact measure that you want is not listed, then you put in other. So that one's not there, so we're going to say miles of roadside cleaned. Okay? Just like with the projects, impact measures must be numbered sequentially so that they position themselves properly on the Excel form. Okay? Like I mentioned, you can enter up to 5 different impact measures for each project. Okay, so we're going to say pounds of trash collected. Okay, so now that we have 2, we're going to call this one number 2 so that they get numbered sequentially and show up properly. The value, you're going to leave the value blank now. Again, that will be collected through the Excel collection process. And this one we'll say also has educational workshops for the community to learn about why it's important to keep roadsides clean. Okay, so then you don't need to fill in a description because it's one of the standard impact measures. This grant has 2 projects, so they're doing the roadside cleanup, and they're also doing a greenhouse rehab. This project is hunger, nutrition, and health, because this greenhouse actually is being utilized by a nursing home, and it helps with their rehabilitation of people. So that's as an example. This is the second project, so we're going to number this number 2. Again, that full description of what is this greenhouse rehab project all about, you're welcome to put here in the full description. And this, the measures here, we're going to say pounds of produce harvested and donated. That's the only one. So in addition to helping the seniors, they're also going to grow tomatoes and donate them, as an example. If you're typing in other impact measures in the other description area, as I indicated here, start with the unit so that when the value is put up with the description, it makes sense. So we're going to collect in the Excel process 30 to go in here, and then when we report out, you'll be able to say 30 what? 30 miles of roadside clean. Just as a consistency thing. Again, if you're adding standardized impact measures, as mentioned in a previous training, you're going to use the same format. To aid with chapters, I would recommend taking that unit and making it bold. Okay, so that's our chapter in Louisiana that we've entered. Now we're going to go to a chapter, let's say in New Mexico. So this Santa Rosa chapter also has a grant. You'll see that they had a grant last year, but we're going to give them a new grant this year. Again, 2012, and the information for that. Okay, I'm going to continue entering this information for this chapter and leave off the training here. One extra note while we're discussing this form, if you know that from last year to this year, contact information for this chapter has changed, you can click Edit Chapter Details, and that'll bring up the chapter details form for that chapter, and you can make any necessary updates to that chapter's information. Similarly with the state, if their living and served contact has changed and you've stored it in the database, you can make those changes here. Okay, that ends this training. I'm going to complete this last grant and we'll move on to other trainings on how to utilize that information.